What's the difference between isolation and solitude? Because they sound a lot alike, don't they?
Yeah, both might be being by ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to read a little excerpt from Henri Nouwen's The Way of the Heart. And this is something I read in college and just picked up last night and really enjoyed it.
So this talks a little bit about being by yourself, and we talk about this often. It's what you do in isolation that really helps it. It's not just being by yourself, but it's kind of like, well, what do you do when you're by yourself, right?
Yeah, so as he describes it, he said, solitude is where the old self dies and the new self is born, the place where the emergence of the new man and the new woman occurs. In solitude, I get rid of my scaffolding. No friends to talk with, no phones, no meetings, no music, no books.
Wow.
Naked, vulnerable, weak, sinful, deprived, broken. Nothing. It is in this nothingness that I have to face in my solitude. And nothingness so dreadful that everything in me wants to run to my friends, my work and my distractions so that I can forget my nothingness and make myself believe that I am worth something. But that's not all. As soon as I decide to stay in my solitude, confusing ideas, disturbing images, wild fantasies, and weird associations jump in my mind like little monkeys in a banana tree. Anger and greed begin to show their ugly faces. I give long, hostile speeches to my enemies and dream lustful dreams in which I am wealthy, influential, and very attractive. Or poor, ugly, and in need of immediate consolation. Thus I try again to run from the dark abyss of my nothingness and restore my false self in all its vain glory. Wow. The task is to persevere in my solitude, to stay in my cell until all my seductive visitors get tired of pounding on my door and leave me alone. What do we do with these voices when we get by ourselves?
There was so much there.
Yeah.
That started off, can I say something that
Yeah.
I thought about that? Okay. Scaffolding, all of the scaffolding and the structures that hold things up. So scaffolding helps you to build something that's taller, and you're putting these pieces and you're decorating and you're making it into something. And the scaffolding is like what holds you up. There's so much that's going on there, and saying you don't have any TV, you don't have any phones, any music, and you just have to deal with yourself.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's easier to run from looking in the mirror. We just do everything we can to avoid seeing ourselves. But in solitude, we kind of face that and kind of have to fight off these negative voices, and we take our thoughts captive, make them obedient to Christ. We say, this is not who I am. I have my identity in Christ. And this is hard, right? Because we keep facing the negativity that we can so easily just avoid. But I found such comfort just listening to, him saying that, he has all these speeches where I am great and powerful, and then I am like horrible. I'm like, oh my goodness, don't we do that? We have this positive space where we just think we're awesome and we're capable. Yeah. And then we switch over like, I'm worthless. Why am I even trying? And so God transforms our minds when we spend time with him.
It's hard to go there.
Yeah.
It's hard to go there because maybe you're scared of what you will get whenever you have real silence, isolation, when you have solitude. So we were asking the question, what's the difference between isolation and solitude?
Yeah.
Right? So isolation is just away from things that you're put away. But solitude, it's more of a connection that you're making between your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings. You're becoming more whole in solitude, wouldn't you say?
Well, and even recently, when I think of isolation, I think we should not live in isolation. I think it's very important that we don't. So when I picked this book up, St. Anthony, I think it was, he spent a couple of months or a couple of years, 20 years, I think it was. All right, so I got to read the book. But he spent all this time in isolation, and then he came out of isolation and was very healthy and effective. And what I tend to see is that when people are in isolation, they're by themselves, and they're getting worse, right? They begin doing things that we would see as psychotic.
That don't make sense.
Yeah.
Because you and I have watched several documentaries and things on TV where maybe somebody lives alone in the woods or even solitary confinement in prisons.
Yeah.
Those can feel like punishment. But
it's not good for us. But the reason it's not good is because it's what we do in our space that's alone, in our isolation or our solitude, right? And so it can be literally the same thing. I'm by myself, but I'm being nice to myself, or I'm being by myself. I'm by myself and I'm seeking the Lord. I'm by myself and I'm hating the world, right? We can do all of these different things. So it's whether we're in a positive or negative space, whether or not we are, accepting ourselves or fighting off what's, trying to rob our heart or rob our
Steal
soul.
your attention too. Yeah. I often try to fill in the spaces. As soon as I get home or as soon as I get in the car, I turn on music. I will listen to podcasts. I just fill in the time really quickly. And I don't think it's like I have to intentionally put something in there because I don't want to think about these bad thoughts that I have, or I'm trying to avoid some type of bad behavior. But I, by default, fill in any space, any void. I just naturally do that because I have lots of tools all around me to do it.
Yeah.
If you have a phone, that's more than enough to fill up your time. So why is that default just so much there? And this is different than the world has ever been.
Yeah.
Smartphones in our lifetime, internet, our lifetime. This is very new, where every single little gap, little crevice, crack that could be in your character or personality can be filled in with other content that will give you a quick fix and make you feel entertained or better about yourself.
Yeah.
It's just different.
So the next time that you get in your car and you go to turn on a song, I think just pause for a second and be curious, why is it that I need a song? Is it because it's going to make me in a better mood and it's going to make me feel happy when I feel sad? Is it because I can't face my thoughts and I got to distract myself? Is it just because I always do it, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not necessarily a bad thing to listen to music. And sometimes for me, I will put the song on for the mood that I want, right? I feel discouraged.
I do that, yeah.
So I put on a song that says, "You can't stop me," right? Or "I can do all things," or "I will be victorious. There will be a breakthrough." All these things that I want to believe because I'm going to put my trust in God over my feelings. But then when we listen to songs that help us, that can encourage us, right? So it's not bad to go to technology or to go to relationships, but can we be by ourselves? So just be curious about it. Ask yourself.
It's a good question.
Can I be by myself? Can I be alone with the Lord? And what do I do? Is isolation good for me? Solitude good for me?
Yeah.
Right? Could go either way.
I'd like to hear from you, and you can make a comment on this. If you've ever had a time where you were in solitude for a while, how did that go? Are you somebody who fills in every gap of the day, and you feel like as soon as things are too quiet, you have to fill it in really quick? Maybe you're more like me, like that. She's better at solitude than I am and being still and quiet. But yeah, tell us how it goes for you. What's helped you to get solitude?